Hi, this is Kendra from Pencil and Pigment, and today I thought I would have a MerMay sort of conversation with you. MerMay is a drawing challenge that takes place in the month of May, and it involves mermaids. And as you can see, I've done it at least 3 times, maybe more. I've done it a lot. I probably won't do it this year, just because I'm sort of filling a planner with stuff I'm interested in while I work on my book. But I wanted to give you some tips and tricks and ideas for how to go about drawing challenges, how to go about doing MerMay, some things to think about, some stuff that might help you. And I've done it very differently, and so I sort of have varying degrees of strange of how I've gone about this drawing challenge. Now, for a little backstory about this challenge, this was created by Tom Bancroft, and I want to say I did these in 2019, but I think it started before that. Don't really remember what I was doing in 2018 or 17. Good times. Oh, you know what? Okay, I remember. 2018, I did them all digitally on Illustrator. So, I don't know where those are. I think those are up on maybe my Redbubble. Anyway, so I did them digitally. So I've done it at least 4 years. I took 2020 off that entire year because pandemics are a lot and we were sorting some stuff out. So this is what I have in paper form to show you. Now, I only did it once digitally, and I realized that I am very much a tactile, like medium hands-on artist creator. So once was enough for that, and then I just, drawing with a mouse, drawing with a stylus or a Wacom tablet just isn't my jam. And maybe someday it will be, but right now it's still not. So things to keep in mind. Get organized. If you are thinking about doing this drawing challenge, if this appeals to you, if you like that idea, grab the planner you have. This is a planner from a previous year, and I might need to zoom in a bit, but make lists, make copious lists. Here's another planner from a previous year of lists and things that I've made. Have more ideas than you need. So if you're thinking about doing the MerMay challenge and you're thinking in terms of like anatomy and arms and neck and head, and then sort of a upper torso, and then tails, figure out what you need for that. I have pages from Sketchtember where I did nothing but weird tails, so I had at least 50 tails to choose from for a, 30+ day challenge. There's 31 days in May. Let me check. Sorry, I used to be organized, but then life. So there's 31 days in May, and I find something that really helps is just having way more than I need. And sometimes when you're going through a challenge and you get to day, I don't know, 11 or 17, wherever you start to sort of hit a mental wall, things start to feel the same and look the same. So if you have some pre-sketches or tons and tons of notes, of lists, of ideas, you can keep drawing and it still feels like you have choices and you have more freedom. Because within the challenge there's restrictions. It has to be a mermaid. But they didn't say what type of mermaid, and they didn't say what type of surface, and they didn't say what type of medium. So you still have options. You can still get weird with it. You can still sort of get really, really creative. The other thing is you don't have to do every day. You don't. There are drawing challenges that are every other day, every 3 days, once a week. Maybe you only create 3. For folks that do like textile work or sculptures, that is more time intensive, especially if you're like working with bronze. You may only create 1. That's also really expensive to do. But figuring out time constraints and understanding what you have on in the month of May. So maybe May is a slower month for your life. Maybe you don't have finals in school or kids doing programs or whatever is going on with you in your universe. Figure out if May is actually doable. If May is a hectic, crazy month and you still want to do MerMay, you can do MerMay in June. You can do MerMay in July. If you need to do it in December, by all means, pull up MerMay in December. We're artists. There's creative freedom. There is a specific contest going on with MerMay. There are judges. There are all kinds of things involved with that where you can win stuff, but you don't have to. You don't have to. Tons and tons of other artists and creators are creating their own MerMay lists that have more freedom, that have more intrigue. Some are a little spooky, some have a little bit more fairy. Like, there's tons of different themes and things you can do. It doesn't just have to be the one from Tom Bancroft, even though that one is considered the official one, but people are playing off of that. So these are lists. So this is a mermaid list, a world watercolor list, a sketch timber list, a Drawloween list. I have 4 different lists here. This is March of the Robots. This is Protest Art April. Here was my mermaid with notes. Here was June. I did figure drawing June. Like, figuring out your themes. And so if you're starting from the very beginning, again, because I'm a big fan of no buys and low buys when it comes to art supplies, do an inventory of what you own of your art supplies and shop your own stash. Shop from your own shelves and figure out what you want to do. If you have a ton of sketchbooks to choose from, you can close your eyes and pick one. Maybe it's the one you can't stop thinking about, or the one that's been sitting there the longest, or, you know, something that you've never used before. Keep in mind, if you are doing a surface you've never used before with a medium you've never used before, there is a learning curve that could be very frustrating if you're not getting quite the look you want to go with. And you may not want to add that level of challenge to a drawing challenge. What you may want to do is do a comfort and consistency. If you are the most comfortable with pen and ink, or the most comfortable with chalk pastels, whatever your most comfortable medium is, then maybe that is something you'd use for this challenge, because the challenge is the challenge. You don't have to build additional challenges on top of that. You don't have to make it the hardest thing in the world. It can also be sort of a timed thing. Like, what can I do in 20 minutes, half an hour? Can I dedicate a whole hour every day? If you don't have a full hour straight through, is it something you can break up into 20-minute chunks, like a morning, afternoon, evening? There's different ways to go about that. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I'm just going to give you tons of ideas because I've done it so many times that I kind of have I have familiarity with all this. So, and then the more you do a challenge, sometimes it can become more challenging to come up with more additional ideas and things. So again, copious notes. Always have more than you need so you can shop ideas and have more freedom within this restrictive challenge. Now let's look at some stuff I've created. Again, these are just some old planners, and that's a great way to fill them and use them, is to make notes for drawing challenges. So I'm not going to do this in any specific order, just because welcome to my life. So this is an A4 lectern. I don't know that they make this color anymore. I apologize, but sometimes things get discontinued and I'm trying to use all my art supplies. So for this drawing challenge, it was 4 colored pencils. 4 or 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was 6 colored pencils and white ink. So the white ink, I believe, was a Sakura white gel pen. And my theme was animals. So I picked an animal and gave it a tail. Now, this was a specific medium choice, a specific surface choice, and a specific theme. So I had a list of about 50 animals. And from there, I could then decide, okay, am I in the mood to do a bird like a peacock, or am I in the mood to do a mammal like a wolf? And how do I do the tail differently every single day while still doing the same colors? The reason I restricted my colors was because of decision fatigue. And decision fatigue is legitimate. So if you have tons of different things, tons of different mediums, tons of different art supplies, trying to figure out what you want to do every day can be taxing on your emotions and your mind, when already drawing every day can feel like a lot. So I restricted everything to make it easier for myself. So the only thing I had to do was just pick which animal I was in the mood for. Already knew where I was going to draw it, already knew how big I was going to do, and then already knew what colors and everything. So all I had to do day of, pick an animal, start drawing. And if I needed a little bit of a reference to help me out, to make sure that some of the stuff looks more accurate for the animal I'm doing, that's great. So, yeah. It's bizarre, it's weird, it's unlike anything I've done before, which kept it interesting. Yes, a sea turtle with a tail is kind of redundant, but that didn't make it any less fun. Here's a flamingo. I don't know, man. I was just in a mood, and I really, really love animals. So if you stick to some of the things you love and enjoy, again, it doesn't feel like such of a challenge or a chore or something super difficult. Again, mermaid doesn't have to be human mermaids. It can be robot mermaids. It can be animal mermaids. It can be botanical mermaids. Figure out what your interests are. There's no reason you can't add faces to flowers and give them a tail. Do that. Like, make your world amazing. And for nothing else but originality, it's gonna work because you're doing that, and it's very, very creative. So a T-Rex and a jerboa. Again, I will link the full sketchbook tours if you want to see what's going on in here, but like extinct and an animal of Africa. Like really trying to pull out some different ideas and try new things. But again, just 6 colored pencils. So I didn't have to try and figure out what to do. Now, if you're somebody that really struggles with doing the same thing over and over and over again, if you get easily bored, again, being bored is just as hard on doing a drawing challenge as being overwhelmed. So if you're super bored, it's gonna be really hard for you to do a drawing challenge. Where I've restricted everything, maybe you go weird every single day. You do a different medium every day. You do a different surface every day. You do a completely different idea. You know you the best. So if you've tried this challenge before or tried a drawing challenge before and it wasn't working for you, if you found yourself getting bored and going, by day like 5, switch it up. Go to acrylic. Go to collage. Like really, really think outside, and go to pottery. Really think some weird, unusual things. Okay, so this is a square. It's a little bit bigger than an A5. I started with one theme and moved on to something else. I started doing fish mermaids. And maybe I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. I could say that in 2022, I was really bored. So I started with different fish, added some ink. Some of these are okay, some of these are not my favorite in the world. I don't know what to tell you. I went through a lot of gold. But I started getting really, really bored. Like really, really bored. Again, I've done MerMay many times. And the problem with getting bored is it really takes your progress. So I started giving them weapons. Ladies should have weapons. I did nothing but ladies. So, you know. Harpoons and weapons and things. Yeah. Like, it's fun. It's fun, but I got really, really bored. So here's like a Nautilus mermaid. And then I started doing a little bit more ink, a little bit more stylized, a little bit more weird with the tails. I got bored. I got super, super bored. And I leaned into that boredom, and instead of giving up, I just decided to try different stuff and have it look completely different. This is like a yoga mermaid. I don't know. A lot of watercolor, gel pen ink. Yoga poses. So yoga and mermaids, it works. Think about the things you enjoy doing outside of art. Do you enjoy like working on portraits? Maybe, you know, it's bigger, it's more face. There's no reason this can't be cropped. And you get the idea that it's still a mermaid with bubbles, a part of a tail, and a face, and it's bigger. Figure out what you enjoy creating, what you enjoy doing, Again, that other one was colored pencil. This is watercolor. I used the whole pan set. It's like 36. I didn't really restrict my colors except when I was doing each individual one. So figuring out shadow and highlight. Again, this is a great opportunity for working on anatomy if that is what you're interested in. If you're not interested in anatomy and you're really interested in fish, or you're really interested in like highlight and shadow, this could be great practice for that. Or if you really want to do, I know, this mermaid is kind of crazy. If you really want to get weird with it, you can. There's no reason you don't have to get weird with it. And try all the ideas. Try doing the strange things. Try weird color combinations. I mean, it's very angular and it's very long and exaggerated, and it's, again, it's kind of a yoga pose. But there's different things you can do for MerMay to make the challenge more sort of tailored to you and what you like to do. And if it's tailored to you and what you like to do, you're more likely to stick with it. These are trading cards. Now, Strathmore makes these sort of 3-inch, 2-inch trading card things in different types of paper. This is the watercolor Strathmore trading card. And this is watercolor with pen and ink, the Uniball Signo gold and silver. And yeah, so I did different mermaids. Some of them have like animals with them. There's a cat, I don't know. Some of them, I've sold some of these. This one has a baby. Figuring out how much time you have to dedicate will help you decide what size you want to do. So if you know you have at least 30 minutes a day, then trading card size would work if you have something this size. If you don't have something this size, there is no reason why you can't grid a sketchbook with washi tape and have 4 per page. Nobody said it had to be huge. It doesn't have to be an A3 or an A2. You don't have to do massive. They don't have to be murals. They can be tiny and still be effective. And figuring out how you want to do that. I have like 2 per color theme kind of when I went to do this. So some of them look more like a matching set and some of them don't. I don't know. I'm not pulling up the 2x2s that are working here for that. But some of these, the colors go well together, and every 2 days I would change it up again because I had time to do that. So it's as detailed as you want to go. Like, it doesn't even have to be the front. Maybe you just really want to work on hair and you want to work on ocean waves, or you're really interested in boats, or you're really interested in aquatic animals and you want an excuse to either put those in there or turn them into, like this is some sort of clownfish, a clownfish mermaid from behind. Like you don't even see her face, but you still sort of get that idea, right? Figuring out themes and lists and being as organized as possible, making sure you have backups. If you're doing 1 pen for the whole challenge or 1 colored pencil, make sure it's not already like over halfway used up, like it's not really tiny. You don't want to get into the swing of it and then run out. So make sure you have enough pages if you're doing it on a paper surface, and make sure you have enough ink, or you have enough chalk, or you have enough colored pencil, or whatever it is, like your pan isn't almost empty of your watercolor. You don't want to run out. That can be really, really discouraging to have to sort of change up and then figure out how you're going to do that. So have more notes than you need and allow more time than you think you need. If you know that sort of creating something like this takes at least an hour, try and carve out 90 minutes. And it may be one of those things where instead of watching a show you watch every night, or whatever you do for entertainment, or how you unwind after a long day of work, instead of that, for the whole month, you do art. And you make art the thing that is your stress relief and your way of unwinding. You can connect with other artists. There are a ton of other artists doing this. I don't know how receptive they are because everybody's trying to scramble and make sure they get this stuff done. So if you need to go simpler, like I didn't have time to fill the background. I concentrated on the mermaid itself. If I'm going to do a mermaid and a background, this is how small I have to get. And I know that about myself. So think about what's important to you. If you are somebody that really, really likes doing full backgrounds and middle ground and foreground and making sure that you have depth of field and all types of different perspective, if you're more interested in the background, then your mermaid can be super, super tiny and it can be like an I Spy. Like, can you find the mermaid in here? But you really just want to work on different ocean, beach, sea type landscapes, and the mermaid is sort of the afterthought. You're still doing mermaid. Nobody said it has to be like the whole page. It could be, itty bitty as big as my thumbnail. And it's still mermaid, and there's still a mermaid in there. Lean into what you're already comfortable with, because this challenge is already challenging enough. So figuring out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, color themes. Again, some of these I'm okay with, some of these I'm not okay with. Understanding with watercolor and layering and not wanting things to bleed, dry time. So certain mediums require a little bit more time and energy, whether you're using like a hair dryer or you live in a very dry climate. Understanding, like, I didn't want my blue lines to bleed on the yellow, so I had to make sure the yellow was completely dry. During that drying time, I could work on other portions, but I still had to wait. And waiting time takes more time. So understanding the mediums you're working with and the time constraints with using those. And then I just added, some ink, because apparently I like ink with my watercolor for this challenge. Just really, really listen to yourself. Listen to yourself and give yourself some outs. So if you're making a list of all the things that you're considering creating or drawing, have another additional list or things with asterisks or stars that are super easy, that take less time. And those can be for your hard days, for your stressful days. Account that life doesn't care that you're doing a drawing challenge. It sounds rough. I know, I'm sorry. Life doesn't care. So your car could break down. You could receive really, really bad news in the mail and then get a horrible email and a terrible phone call. Like, all of that is going to affect how you draw and create for the day. Having an easy thing where it's just like tail sketches or whatever it is that requires less time for you. Maybe you're just working on different parts like fins, and you want to have like a tail. Maybe it's just a big tail. And you don't want to work on a face. Maybe faces take you a really, really long time, and one of your notes is, hey, on a hard day, just a tail, just a fin. Like, it's swimming by, there's bubbles or something, it's swimming by, but it's really big, and that's the only thing you have to work on. Have a little short list of stuff that's really, really quick for hard days. It will help you, and you will always be glad you included that. Drawing things you've never drawn before. If you have never done mermaid before, and you're not familiar with faces, and you're not familiar with anatomy, and you're not familiar with fins, this is going to be a challenge. If those three things are new to you, then make sure your surface and your medium are things that aren't new to you. Do not make this super, super hard for yourself. If you are really comfortable with Midori paper and a number 2 pencil, then by all means, HB and paper for this challenge. Because again, everything else is still part of the challenge. Creating every day is part of the challenge. Again, you can do it every other day. If you really want to sink your teeth into something and maybe produce one beautiful mermaid illustration for the month, then do that. Learn the beginning to end process of what it takes to create a finalized piece that you could then sell. If that is your end goal for what you're doing with your art, where the first couple days you spend on sketches and composition and then deciding colors and surface and themes, and then work towards building and creating and working on it a little bit every day. Like Slowvember is the month of November where people do just concentrate on creating one professional piece. You could absolutely do that with MerMay. You could absolutely do that. So figure out what it is that you enjoy about art and what your goals are, and tie your goals to some creator challenges. So if your goal is to produce art that you can sell as a side hustle or it's part of your career, maybe see if you can get a commission that's for a piece of art where you turn somebody into a mermaid. And then you're sort of doubling up for exposure and getting your name out there and doing something fun for a client that also gets you paid. If this is just something you enjoy for fun on the side, maybe you really want to concentrate on aquatic weapons. Maybe that's a thing that works for you, or you're really into fishing. Like, who isn't into fishing? Fishing school, or boats, or some of the parts that goes along with being on the sea and figuring out sailing and some of that stuff. Maybe you're really into like the myths and the legends, because there is like mermaid legends all around the world from all different countries. We have a book about that. It's a kid's book. I will link it in the description box. And it's really, really cool about mermaid stories from different countries and cultures. So if that's something you're interested in, if you are more of a history person, tie that interest to the drawing challenge. And again, it doesn't have to be drawing. It could be painting, it could be sculpting. Your imagination is your limit. Where you're comfortable is your limit. So figure out where you're at before you sit down and go, is this actually the challenge for me? My month of May is horrible. It's like my busiest month of the year. If that is something you're saying to yourself, then it's not the time to do mermaid. Maybe do mermaid in June. Or if you're saying, I have no desire to do mermaids. Like, that is not something that interests me at all. But I really, really love March of the Robots, which is doing a robot every day in the month of March. You could do robotic mermaids. You could do robots in the ocean with a fin. Like, it's your interpretation of what a mermaid looks like. But if mermaids don't interest you, then by all means, pass it up. Don't go with it. Don't do it. You don't have to. Just because everybody else around you is doing it doesn't mean it's for you. And that's absolutely okay. And understanding that will only make you a stronger artist, because you're not adding pressure to something you enjoy. Don't allow yourself to be pressured if you're not interested in doing a thing. Figure out what it is you like and go with that. I hope this video helped a little bit. I hope it gave you some ideas. Again, go slow, carve out time, have all your ideas before May, or after you're done creating, come up with your idea for the next day. So all you have to do day of is sit down and create. That's it. You know, your past self preps you for the day of. And that's always really nice to sit down and be able to do that. Make sure your desk is cleaned off. Have your supplies readily available so they're all within reach. You don't want to have to hunt and search every single day. That takes time out of creating. Your creating time should be your time. It shouldn't be trying to figure out where you left your stuff, and, you know, and if there's other people in your house and you share and you borrow, let them know what you're working on. Full communication, like, hey, this stuff's off limits. I need this right here. I need to be able to just to sit down, go create. I don't have time to hunt and search. So make sure folks know in your house, in your home, what you're working on, so you can get the accountability and the support with that. Letting folks know you're doing a drawing challenge and say, hey, could you check in with me every 4 or 5 days and ask to see my progress? That'll also help keep you accountable and keep you motivated. Having, you know, cheerleaders, talk to your best friend, talk to your neighbor, talk to folks in your community, ask other folks if they're doing this, and see if you can create a little group, get together. Sometimes it's really fun to create with other artists. Let folks know. I hope this video helps. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful week, and I will talk to you later. Bye.